My first love, Shin accidentally locked his sweetheart in the office. To punish me, he locked me in a derelict cold storage, forcing me to repent. You need to experience the suffering Yuan endured, so you'll learn a lesson. He locked me in, giving me only a bowl of water. Little did he know, it wasn't a derelict cold storage. After he left, it started operating. I shivered from the cold, desperately calling for help. The door and walls were covered in bloody handprints from my pleas. 7 days later, wanting me to apologize, he had someone open the cold storage, only to find a frozen corpse. Shin busy all day, checked the time. It's been 3 days. Has Chen Man admitted her mistake yet? That woman is stubborn. His first love, Liang Mingyuan, walked in with chicken soup. Ayu let it go. She didn't do it on purpose. 3 days is enough. Shin Yu's expression softened when he saw her. You're too kind. If only Chen Man had a fraction of your understanding. Don't get angry. She's just too concerned about you. Hearing this, Shin Yu pulled out his phone and ordered his subordinate. Has Chen Man admitted her mistake? No, there's no sound coming from inside. Mr. Shin, could something have happened? What could happen? If she won't admit her mistake, let her stay there. Hanging up, his face returned to its cold indifference. Liang Mingyuan wore a triumphant expression. Shin Yu, you'll never get my response, because I'm already dead. I died 3 days ago. The derelict cold storage was powered on after they left. I was alone inside, with no one to hear my cries. At first, there were voices outside. I desperately pounded on the door and begged, but I was met with the indifferent gaze of the guard. Mr. Shin said you need to reflect inside, madam. Please don't make things difficult for us. No. Please, the cold storage is on. Someone help. But there was no sound from outside anymore. They were gone. At first, I managed to stay calm, searching for a way out. But as the temperature dropped, I couldn't think straight. I could only run in circles to generate heat. Eventually, I couldn't even run anymore. I just felt frozen solid. I curled up in a corner, hoping to get warm. This place used to freeze seafood. After the goods were moved out, only shelves remained. I piled all the shelves in front of me, hoping to block the cold. But it was no use. The moment I realized I was going to die, my heart grew colder and colder. When I saw my own corpse, I was shocked. In the corner, my body was covered in frost, my eyes filled with despair. The door and walls were covered in my fingernail marks, all 10 fingers bleeding. I was about to approach, but the next second, I was sucked out and appeared beside Shin Yu. Hearing his words now, I found it laughable. Shin Yu, I used my life to reflect. I never want to see you again in my next life. I stood aside, watching Shin Yu and Liang Mingyuan gaze at each other. Liang Mingyuan took out her phone and handed it to him. Ayu, I got tickets for the art exhibit. Will you go with me tomorrow? Sure. It's getting late. You should rest. Liang Mingyuan held his hand. I'm afraid of the dark. Stay with me. Shin Yu sighed and stood up. I forgot, Liang Mingyuan was staying in my house. When she returned from abroad, the first thing she did was contact Shin Yu. Using the excuse of being unfamiliar with the place, she asked to move into our house. How ridiculous. She's a local. After 5 years abroad, she's unfamiliar with the place? When I objected, Shin Yu became impatient. Chen Man, her parents aren't here. Do you know how dangerous it is for a girl to live alone? I knew, because I used to rent a room alone before we got married. Shin Yu told me back then. Chen Man, girls should be respectable. I don't want to live together before marriage. Now I think about it, he played the double standard to the fullest. Shin Yu went to the guest room with Liang Mingyuan. It was called the guest room, but it was right next to our master bedroom, which I had originally planned to use as a nursery. But when Liang Mingyuan arrived, she said the room had plenty of light. She said she liked it, and Shin Yu gave it to her. I coldly watched as Shin Yu took her to the guest room. Liang Mingyuan was about to leave when a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. With a crack, thunder struck, scaring her into a scream as she threw herself into Shin Yu's arms. Shin Yu's body stiffened. Liang Mingyuan held on to him tightly, not letting go. Ayu, I'm so scared. Can you stay with me? Shin Yu's hand lingered on her back for a moment, then patted her. Okay. At that moment, I felt like a clown because I was also afraid of thunder. I remember when I lived alone, a heavy rain suddenly started at night, with thunder and lightning. To make matters worse, the power went out, and I was so scared I was almost crying. So I called him, hoping he would comfort me. But what did Shin Yu say? How old are you to still be so afraid of thunder? Chun man, don't use these tactics to get my attention. You need to know you're an adult, independent now, be a good girl, okay? He hung up the phone, and that night I huddled under the covers, relying on my phone's flashlight. I barely managed to fall asleep until dawn. Looking back now, I was so pathetic. Shin Yu didn't care at all. He always kept me at arm's length, like a wall between us. I gave a bitter laugh. Even though I was dead, the thunder still scared me. I hugged my arms, shivering. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't go anywhere, so I had to stay and watch Shin Yu hold Liang Mingyuan and comfort her. And she nestled in Shin Yu's arms, her eyes sharp and triumphant. I sighed. Liang Mingyuan was always the cinnabar mole in Shin Yu's heart. What did I even amount to? I shook my head looking outside. Even in death, I was still afraid of thunder. Fortunately, it didn't last too long. An hour later, the thunder stopped, and Shin Yu left the guest room. Liang Mingyuan smiled triumphantly as she watched his back, muttering to herself, Shin Yu, you'll always be mine. No one can take you away from me. I was startled to hear those words. Even now, she was still thinking about Shin Yu. Then why did she leave in the first place? And Shin Yu, if he couldn't forget her, why did he marry me? After returning, Shin Yu was uncharacteristically looking at my photo on his phone, saying in a low voice, Chun man, I hope you learn your lesson. If you soften up and admit your mistake, I'll let you out. Looking at Shin Yu's face, I could only laugh. Soften up? Admit my mistake? What did I do wrong? I didn't lock Liang Mingyuan in the office. But Shin Yu wouldn't listen to my explanation because Liang Mingyuan said, in her green tea way, that she didn't blame me. So Shin Yu was convinced I was the one who did it. He locked me in the abandoned cold storage, killed me, and now he wants me to admit my mistake. How ridiculous. Shin Yu is a smart man. He wouldn't be so brainless to become the company's president. But when it comes to Liang Mingyuan, he becomes deaf and blind. Early the next morning, the person guarding the cold storage felt that something was wrong and reported nervously. President Shen, should we let Madam out? There's no sound at all coming from the cold storage, and that bowl of water won't last 5 days. Shin Yu hesitated for a moment, then said coldly, without eating or drinking, a bowl of water can last 10 days. Since she's so stubborn, let her continue. I want to see how long she can hold out. But there's no sound at all inside. We're a little worried. What if Madam She? Don't worry, Chin Man is just faking it. Shin Yu's one sentence sealed my fate, so the guards didn't say anything more. At this moment, Liang Mingyuan walked in. Hearing him say this, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. You let it go, it's already been several days, and I'm not really in that bad of shape. No, she kept you locked up in the office for so long, she should be punished. Liang Mingyuan smiled but said, isn't that a bit too much? After all, she is your wife. She is always causing me trouble. It's my fault, always bothering you, making her jealous. Just let her go. Liang Mingyuan's words sounded nice, ostensibly helping me out, but every sentence was designed to condemn me. And Shin Yu fell for it every time. Mingyuan, you're just too soft-hearted. Fine, for your sake, I'll give her a chance. Liang Mingyuan's face froze, not expecting Shin Yu to say that. What's wrong? Seeing her expression was off, Shin Yu asked, what's wrong? Nothing. I just thought since it's been several days, we should bring a doctor to take a look. Liang Mingyuan being so kind? I was skeptical. But what she said was true, bring a doctor, to confirm I was dead. So there wouldn't be trouble later. Shin Yu, I look forward to you discovering the truth. I really want to see what your expression will be when you know I'm dead. Shin Yu took a deep breath and pulled Liang Mingyuan. If only she could be even a little bit as understanding as you are. She is still your wife. Shin Yu's eyes were complex. I sneered. I never wanted to compete with Liang Mengyuan for anything. Wife. That title is truly ironic. Even without this so-called confinement, I was planning to divorce him. I've really had enough. It's just a pity about that little life. I couldn't help but cover my lower abdomen, feeling a deep sorrow. At this moment, Shen Yu's face darkened, his voice unquestionable. No need, you don't need to plead for her. Chin Man, that woman is just pretending. Every time it's either this hurts or that hurts, or she says she didn't do it. I've seen right through her. None of you are allowed to plead for her. Unless she apologizes, she's not coming out. Hearing this, Liang Mengyuan seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, standing aside without saying a word, while I was somewhat stunned. Shen Yu. So that's what I am in your heart. A sharp pain shot through my heart. It's okay. I'm already dead, I don't care about anything anymore. Shen Yu finally remembered me and took people to the abandoned cold storage. When they arrived at the door, the guards were trembling. President Shen. Has Chen Man not yielded yet? President Shen, no, we asked through the door, but there's no response from inside at all. Madam, could something have happened? I'm worried. Shen Yu snorted coldly. What's there to worry about? Just making a fuss. Open the door. I want to hear her apologize with my own ears. The corners of Liang Mingyuan's mouth turned up. The security guards hurried over, and after a few of them opened the cold storage door, they were dumbfounded. Shen Yu's voice came from behind. Get her out here. Press President Shen, the cold storage seems to have been activated. Shen Yu walked over. What activated? Are you trying to shirk responsibility? At this moment he stood at the door, and the cold air from inside poured out continuously, making people feel chills down their spine. Shen Yu's face turned pale. Chen Man, don't think that just because you turned on the cold storage, I'll forgive you. Get out here. Silence. Everyone around looked at each other. Shen Yu was furious. After hesitating for a long time, he said coldly, Bring her out to me. As soon as he finished speaking, several people rushed in. When they saw the frozen corpse curled up in the corner behind the shelves, they were terrified. Madam is frozen to death. Shen Yu flew into a rage. Nonsense. How could she be dead? He rushed in, and behind several rows of shelves, a person was faintly curled up. Shen Yu trembled. I followed behind him. Although I was prepared, I was still a little scared to see my own corpse. My eyes were wide open, staring straight ahead at him. My face full of frost, all 10 fingers covered in dried blood. The ground and walls were covered with signs of my struggle. The moment our eyes met, Shen Yu staggered twice and fell to his knees in front of me with a thud. He reached out a trembling hand, wanting to touch me, but didn't dare. No, this isn't her, impossible. The cold storage is abandoned, how could she freeze to death? Go get the surveillance footage, see what the hell happened. He turned his head and saw the bloody handprint on the wall, his lips twitching. He stood up, rushed over to caress the wall, and then looked at me in the corner. Although his hands were frozen stiff, they were still a bloody mess, all 10 fingers covered in blood. Shen Yu was going crazy, and suddenly stepped forward and hugged me. Chen Man, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? This is all fake, you're trying to scare me, right? Get up, get up. I don't believe you're just gone like this, Chen Man, hurry up. I don't blame you anymore, I won't punish you either, you don't need to reflect, hurry. Get up quickly. Say something, talk to me. He frantically pulled and tugged at me, but my body was frozen stiff, and with his pull, I fell to the ground with a thud. Shen Yu staggered a couple of times and immediately collapsed, unable to get up. Liang Mingyuan outside the door was pale with fright. Then a trace of composure flashed in her eyes. Ayu, she's already dead, you must grieve. Shen Yu turned his head to look at her, and in the next second roared. She's not dead. How could she be dead? Impossible. The doctor he brought immediately stepped forward and shook his head, saying, President Shen, there are no vital signs. At this moment, the gatekeeper rushed over. President Shen, the surveillance was destroyed, but our people have been guarding the gate. Shen Yu was stunned. If that was the case, then it meant that when I went in that day, the cold storage was already operating normally. His eyes were about to burst as he shouted at everyone around. How could you let this happen? He took off his clothes and wrapped me up, then rushed out holding me. Chin man, I'm taking you to the hospital, you won't die. If you can't be saved, I'll make you all pay with your lives. Shinyu was going crazy, and slammed his foot on the accelerator, rushing straight to the hospital. I followed him all the way, and seeing his hysterical appearance, I couldn't help but sigh. Shinyu, what are you pretending for now? Back then, I desperately begged you to investigate the truth, but you wouldn't believe me and insisted on punishing me. Now that I'm dead, what deep affection are you acting out? How boring. The corners of my mouth curled into a sneer as I watched Shinyu carry me into the hospital, scaring the doctors. Save her, save her. Save her quickly. When the doctor saw him carrying the frozen me over, his pupils constricted, and after confirming that I had no vital signs, he shook his head. I'm sorry, the patient is already dead. Nonsense. She's clearly still breathing. Why won't you save her? Why? Shinyu caused a scene in the emergency room. Helpless, the hospital could only call the police. When the police arrived and saw me, they were also a little incredulous, because I had been frozen to death. And this was summer. Considering Shinyu's status, after some persuasion, the police took my body away for an autopsy. Shinyu originally disagreed, but he just wanted to figure out what had happened to me, so he agreed. Looking at his distraught appearance, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Shinyu, when you find out the truth, don't cry at my grave. News of my death spread quickly. Shinyu sat in the corridor silent. At this moment, Liang Mingyuan came over. She hugged Shinyu tightly. Ayu, what's done is done. You need to cheer up as soon as possible. Why? Who didn't want her to live? I just wanted her to soften up a little. Why did things have to turn out like this? Hearing this, a hint of viciousness flashed in Liang Mingyuan's eyes. Then she swayed and leaned into his arms. Mingyuan, what's wrong? Chin man has already left me. You can't have anything happen. Ayu, my head is so dizzy. After Liang Mingyuan said that, she fainted in his arms. Shinyu was anxious and quickly carried her to the hospital room. Finally, after she woke up, Shinyu was about to leave, but Liang Mingyuan grabbed his hand tightly. Don't leave me, okay? He stayed by Liang Mingyuan's side, looking deeply affectionate. How ironic. His own wife was frozen to death and undergoing an autopsy, and he still had time to be with another woman. Shinyu, how big is your heart? It was raining again outside, with thunder and lightning. Shinyu murmured. Was she also scared that night? Liang Mingyuan was stunned. What did you say? It was thundering that night. Was she also scared inside the cold storage? Liang Mingyuan's face was ashen. Shinyu pushed her hand away. Mingyuan, I have something to do. I'll leave first. Liang Mingyuan hurriedly pounced on him. Ayu, don't go, don't go. She held on to Shinyu tightly, but Shinyu pried her hands apart bit by bit. If you're really scared, I'll have the doctor give you a shot. You won't be scared after you sleep. Hearing these words, she was immediately stunned, looking at Shinyu in disbelief. I laughed. Shinyu, so you do know how to refuse. Why didn't you refuse her entanglement in the first place? After saying that, Shinyu strode away, and I followed him. Shinyu's assistant quickly came forward. President Shin, the surveillance shows that someone did secretly enter and open the cold storage that day, but they were heavily covered. We are investigating. Hearing this, Shinyu clenched his fists tightly. Investigate at all costs. And what? The assistant said in a deep voice. Does Miss Liang really have claustrophobia? Just being locked in the office caused her old illness to flare up. The office is so bright and there was no power outage that night. How could Miss Liang? The assistant hesitated halfway through his sentence. Shinyu frowned and stopped, looking at him. What do you mean? The assistant hurriedly said. I don't know Miss Liang's character, but I know Mrs. Shin well. She would never do such a thing. I almost cried when I heard that. Shinyu, even your assistant is speaking up for me. Did you ever believe in me? Shinyu shook his head. No, Mingyuan has always been kind-hearted and would never do such a thing. But. No buts. The assistant hesitated to speak, but seeing his expression, he had no choice but to give up. However, I clearly saw a trace of indignation flash across the assistant's face. Fortunately someone will help me. That way, I won't have to worry. Shinyu, it doesn't matter if you don't believe me, naturally someone will. Before the autopsy report came out, someone leaked the news of my death. That day, the video of Shinyu holding me and roaring in the hospital was posted online. Netizens were shocked. The dignified president's wife was actually frozen to death in a cold storage. Are you kidding me? The husband is the most suspicious when the wife dies. I suggest the police investigate carefully. He doesn't look like he's acting, the way he's grieving. I think his acting is just too good. His wife was frozen to death alive in a cold storage. Wow. I know that cold storage, there's a small path leading to it from the backyard, but who lured Madame Shin there? Insider news, Shinyu personally sent her in for his mistress. Explosive. He's a murderer. How dare he roar in the hospital? The netizens' words were as poisonous as venom, showing no respect for Shinyu. I watched Shinyu trembling as he clicked on those comments, his face ashen. He didn't expect that netizens would hit the nail on the head and expose his true colors. Shinyu, you see, everyone's eyes are sharp. I was surprised by my own calmness. At this moment, it seemed that I had no feelings for Shinyu anymore. Seeing his displeased face, I even felt a little better. In the moment before I was frozen to death, I was still wondering why Shinyu didn't believe me. Now that I think about it, not loving is not loving. No matter what, he couldn't have any compassion for me. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pushed me in at the crucial moment, ignoring me and insisting that I reflect, and not allowing anyone to check on me. At this time, Shinyu sent this video to his assistant. His face was very ugly. Shin man, I hope this is just an accident. I glanced at him with disdain. How is this an accident? This is man-made. The culprit is you. Didn't you personally escort me in? If we're talking about legal responsibility, you are indeed the murderer. Unfortunately, Shinyu can't hear me. I sat on the sofa and watched him. Shinyu was staring at my photo in a daze, during which Liang Mingyuan called him countless times. The piercing ringtone echoed throughout the office, but Shinyu ignored it, which didn't seem like him. Liang Mingyuan finally couldn't bear it anymore and broke into Shinyu's villa. You? People can't come back to life. You can't be so self-destructive. Look how thin you've become. Liang Mingyuan felt distressed and was about to step forward, but Shinyu looked at her and took a step back. Liang Mingyuan was stunned. You. Mingyuan, I don't have much time to spend with you lately. You should go back to your own home. Liang Mingyuan was immediately dumbfounded. You know I'm here. You're an adult. There's nothing you can't get through. Shinyu's words left her speechless. I sneered from the side. Yes, adult life is not easy, Liang Mingyuan. Your day has come. Just as she was about to speak, Shinyu's phone rang. He shuddered when he answered the phone. Okay, I'll be right there. He rushed out in a hurry, leaving Liang Mingyuan behind. You let me go with you. Shinyu didn't think much and took her directly to the police station. When he received the autopsy report, he took a deep breath and didn't dare to look at it. And the police told him. According to the preliminary autopsy, the deceased has been dead for 7 days, and she was 2 months pregnant before her death. What did you say? Pregnant? Shinyu was immediately stunned, looking at the police officer in disbelief. Liang Mingyuan, on the other hand, exaggeratedly covered her mouth. Shinman is pregnant? How is that possible? Officer, you must be mistaken, right? You and Shinman have no feelings. You said you never even touched her. Then whose child is it? As if she had discovered something, she immediately covered her mouth. Shinyu's expression was displeased. No, the child is mine. Liang Mingyuan's face turned pale. I smiled. Yes, this child is Shinyu's. That day, Liang Mingyuan happened to go to a concert with someone and posted it on Moments. Shinyu was particularly angry after seeing it and drank a lot that night. That day he was especially violent. I was so exhausted by him that I had no energy left, and I forgot to take my medicine. As a result, it was a one-shot deal. Thinking about it now, I was really stupid. He clearly treated me as a tool for venting his desires, but I was still foolishly willing to be with him. At this moment, Xinyu also seemed to have realized something and slapped himself hard. You, what are you doing? Liang Mingyuan was heartbroken and quickly stepped forward to grab his hand, but Xinyu pushed her away. She staggered. Don't touch me. Mingyuan, I'm sorry, I can't accept this. He was flustered and stumbled out of the police station, leaving with the autopsy report. At this time, there was also news from the assistant. President Shin, we've caught that person. Xinyu was immediately stunned, then perked up and stepped on the accelerator, rushing out. I followed along. When we arrived and saw the familiar cold storage, I felt a jolt in my heart. The assistant Lin Hao pointed inside and said, "It's him. He has already confessed that Liang Mingyuan gave him 500,000 yuan to turn on the power. The transfer records have all been confirmed." Hearing this, Xinyu directly grabbed the assistant's neck. "Do you know what you're talking about?" "President Shen, I'm not wrong. It really is Liang Mingyuan. These are the proof of the transfer, and there was a hidden camera in the backyard that recorded their entire transaction. Also, it wasn't Madam who locked her in the office, she locked herself into frame Madam." The assistant's words tore away all of Liang Mingyuan's pretense. I listened from the side and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Xinyu staggered, looking up at the bloody handprint on the wall. His face turned pale, and he cried and laughed, not knowing if he was pretending or too stimulated. He kept saying sorry. "I'm sorry, Chin Man, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. How could I be so stupid to believe her lies?" I scoffed. "Late affection is cheaper than grass. The child is dead and now you offer milk. What use are these apologies to me? I've already lost my life, your apology can't bring me back, so please don't pretend in front of me." I didn't want to pay attention to Xinyu, but I couldn't leave him either. I immediately felt a little speechless. I touched my lower abdomen and couldn't help but sigh as I watched Xinyu's hysterical appearance. "Xinyu, this is all you brought on yourself." After a long time, he finally calmed down and glanced at the man in the cold storage, his eyes becoming sharp. The man immediately trembled. I was wrong. What are you going to do? Back then, you turned on the power and caused my wife to die a tragic death. Now you can try the same taste, lock him in and turn on the power." The man immediately became anxious. "You can't do this, you can't. I just accepted money to do things for others. Please, I'm willing to testify in court. I'm willing." Xinyu didn't care. "Court? Isn't jail too good for you? Throw him in." No matter how he begged, Xinyu refused to let him go, locking him in the cold storage and having someone watch over him. After only a few hours, there was no movement inside. Looking at the man who was already frozen stiff, Xinyu said expressionlessly, "Bring Liang Mingyuan here." Liang Mingyuan probably didn't expect that she would ultimately fail. When Xinyu brought her to the cold storage, she immediately trembled like a leaf. Just looking at her expression, I knew my death was inseparable from her. "Ayu, what's wrong with you? Mingyuan, were you really locked in that day by Chen Man?" The sudden question made her stunned. Liang Mingyuan said blankly, "I don't blame her, Chen Man didn't do it on purpose." "Ayu, it's been so long, why are you still asking about this?" Xinyu grinned and smiled. "Why? Naturally, to do what I like to do. Some people are so hard to read, I really misjudged." "Liang Mingyuan, what deep hatred do you have with Chen Man?" "Ayu, what's wrong with you? Don't call me Ayu, it's disgusting." His words made Liang Mingyuan's eyes sink instantly, and she stopped pretending. "You know." "I know, why did you do this?" "Why? I'm helping you. Xinyu, she doesn't deserve you." Liang Mingyuan sneered. "You're always like this, no matter what happens, you'll unconditionally stand by my side. I just wanted to show you what a permanent solution looks like. Chen Man is disobedient, so let her die inside. Didn't you want to see her disappear in front of you? Now you're pretending to be so affectionate." Her words were undoubtedly a sharp knife stabbing into Xinyu's heart, and Xinyu's face turned livid. Liang Mingyuan laughed. "I didn't want to do this originally, but after coming back and looking around, I realized that you still have feelings for me. I only cut my finger, and you couldn't wait to come to my side. Speaking of Chen Man, she's really stupid, so devoted to you. Now that things have come to this point, Liang Mingyuan didn't pretend anymore, directly revealing her true colors. Xinyu looked at her like this, grabbed her, and choked her face red. I stood by and watched them tear each other apart, and suddenly found it very funny. Belated affection is worthless. I used to think Xinyu was completely unreasonable. If he didn't love me, why wouldn't he let go? Now I know he was truly cheap to the extreme. If he had openly proposed a divorce and married Liang Mingyuan, I would have admired him. But he needlessly sacrificed my life. Now Liang Mingyuan's words made Xinyu go crazy. He slapped Liang Mingyuan in the face. Bitch. I couldn't bear to watch any longer, turned my head and walked away, only to unexpectedly find myself outside the cold storage, no longer bound by Xinyu. This discovery immediately relieved me. It seemed that even heaven didn't want me to waste my time anymore, so it gave me this opportunity. I was thinking about where to go for a stroll later when the sirens rang out. I was stunned, looking at the police cars that were pouring in all around, and the reporters, before I realized what was happening. She laughed instantly. Soon, the case of Xinyu's suspected murder of his wife became a trending topic. Everyone knew that I had been frozen to death, and the police announced that Liang Mingyuan had instructed someone to connect the power, causing my tragic death. As soon as this report came out, everyone caught the scent and rushed over. I knew there would be a mistress. Xinyu is toxic. Seriously hungry, she's such a slut. Do men not have the ability to detect a bitch? He killed his wife for such a dead green tea. I want to know how many years he'll get for causing a pregnancy loss. Someone rich like him can grease the wheels and he'll be out soon. Sure enough, the netizens were amazing. They immediately guessed Xinyu's maneuver. He hired a lawyer, and this whole thing was originally a marital conflict between him and Liang Mingyuan. I was behind it. He also had a responsibility, but not a large one. Liang Mingyuan indirectly caused my death. Therefore, Xinyu paid a large bail and was released directly. I didn't want to see him, but I didn't expect Xinyu to come to the cemetery holding my ashes. Helpless, I endured it. But how could this guy have the nerve to engrave, "beloved wife," on the tombstone? He was the one who caused me to end up like this. Xinyu, please don't cry at my grave. I'm afraid you'll pollute my path to reincarnation. I shook my head and sighed. Oh well, I'm already dead. It doesn't matter what he wants to do. My future is still long, no need to worry about such trivial things. Xinyu poured a bottle of wine in front of my grave. I'm sorry, Chin Man. I'm sorry to you and the baby. I never thought that a moment of my carelessness would cause your tragic death. I can't repay this in this life or the next. I rolled my eyes. Xinyu, you scum. I don't want to curse. Netizens will distinguish for me. He took out his phone and placed it beside him. It had our wedding photo on it. I was a little surprised. I didn't expect Xinyu to still have this photo. I remembered when we were taking the wedding photos. Xinyu received a call right after we confirmed the location. And then he left, leaving me to take the photos alone. The photographer even looked embarrassed. I finished taking the wedding photos alone that day. I was already used to Xinyu leaving me behind at crucial moments. No doubt he went to find Liang Mingyuan. This wasn't the first time. Every time I had a date with Xinyu, or was alone with him, Liang Mingyuan would interrupt. Either her finger was cut or the water pipe burst. In short, I felt uneasy in her shadow. Now that Xinyu abandoned me to find her, I wasn't surprised at all. That day after I finished shooting, I quietly returned home. I was originally going to propose breaking up with Xinyu. I really couldn't stand him treating me like this. I'm a living, breathing human being. Being stood up by Xinyu left me unable to explain. But Xinyu came back in the evening with a large bouquet of flowers, and I forgave him at the time. Forgive my love brain back then. I didn't know that it was originally Liang Mingyuan acting up. Later, I found a card in the flowers, signed with his name to Liang Mingyuan, which immediately discouraged me. But now it's different. I'm already dead. For a dead person to compete, Liang Mingyuan thinks too highly of herself. Chin Man, don't worry, I won't let Liang Mingyuan get out. As for Liang Mingyuan, the court sentenced her to 10 years in prison, and I used some connections to send her to a prison full of thugs. She will be taken care of very comfortably. At this moment, I looked at Shen Yu and shook my head. Others have retribution. Where is your retribution, Shen Yu? Shen Yu raised his head and drank the bottle of wine, leaning against my tombstone and falling asleep with red eyes. Seeing him like this, I couldn't help but shake my head. Shen Yu, goodbye. I hope we never meet again in the next life.